What is going on there, citizens of the Reject Nation? Greg here today. John, how's your day going?
John's day is all right.
All right, people. Looks like we got someone here. William Hurt. William Hurt's back from the dead and he's come to apologize.
Those controversies caught up with him finally.
Will Smith finally speaking up. We want to hear what he has to say. Fascinating seeing this. I was actually watching the David Letterman interview that was shot before the Academy Awards from My Guest Needs No Introduction, that Netflix series. And it was just interesting watching it because I'm like, yeah, that's the inspirational words of wisdom, Will Smith. It's just interesting looking at like what's happened with his career as of late. But we'll see what he has to say, how heavily produced this is.
This is going to be the most high-gloss apology video.
Well, no, we'll see. He's joining the list of YouTubers apologizing. What if it was like, I haven't thought about this at all?
Cleared my mind.
Why didn't you apologize to Chris in your acceptance speech?
Good question, yeah.
I was fogged out by that point. It's all fuzzy. I've reached out to Chris, and the message that came back is that he's not ready to talk, and when he is, he will reach out.
That's fair.
So I will say to you, Chris, I apologize to you. My behavior was unacceptable, and I'm here whenever you're ready to talk. I want to apologize to Chris's mother. I saw an interview.
Yeah,
Chris's mother did.
Saw that too. Yeah.
And, that was one of the things about that moment. I just didn't realize, and, I wasn't thinking, but how many people got hurt in that moment.
Right.
It's
So
not
I
just
want
about
to
you.
apologize to Chris's mother. I want to apologize to Chris's family, specifically Tony Rock. We had a great relationship.
Yeah, when hearing this, one of the first things that comes to mind is there's this whole side of this whole thing that's like, do we forgive Will Smith? And then the big question is well, actually, what does Chris Rock forgive Will Smith? That's like probably the most important question. I know Chris Rock was speaking recently, and I know in like our past videos, we've even talked about, I'm sure Chris Rock is not going to go around saying, I'm a victim of this. And sure enough, that's what he said.
He
like,
literally said, I'm not a victim in this situation.
Yeah. The bottom line is, does that mean he has forgiven Will Smith? When exactly was this shot, this specific video? That is probably the first and foremost most important thing before we forgive him.
Yeah. Everybody involved should work this out, and it doesn't really matter what the rest of us think.
In terms of my honest opinion about the situation, I can move past it. As Chris Rock does, why can't I? And I don't even need Chris Rock to be totally frank with you. I can move past. I'm sure many of us can too, unless it was extremely sensitively triggering for you in your own personal ways. But for me, it just wasn't.
Yeah, unless it becomes like a chronic thing. I mean, it depends on the kind of work Will Smith is doing, but it certainly seems like he's taken time to measure this response. We can acknowledge what happened, probably let him out of movie jail pretty soon, just because, it's a human moment, and it doesn't seem indicative of some kind of toxic streak of like, this guy's got to go and be violent with everybody,
Tony Rock was my man. This is probably irreparable. I spent the last 3 months replaying and understanding the nuances and the complexities of what happened in that moment. And I'm not going to try to unpack all of that right now, but I can say to all of you, there is no part of me that thinks that was the right way to behave in that moment. There's no part of me that thinks that's the optimal way to handle a feeling of disrespect or insults. After Jada rolled her eyes, did she tell you to do something? No. It's like, I made a choice on my own, from my own experiences, from my history with Chris. Jada had nothing to do with it. I'm sorry, babe. I'm gonna say sorry to my kids and my family for the heat that I brought on all of us.
Yeah, I think that was probably the most annoying part to me about this whole ordeal. How Jada became the scapegoat for Will Smith's decision. I know a lot of people will come at me or come in here being like, oh, if you're in a toxic relationship, that emotionally abusive and that does something to a man. And I'm like, sure. Bottom line is he's a grown-ass man who made his own choice and went up there on that stage, took the time to walk up there.
Nah, she forced him to do it.
Yeah, but a lot of people think, yeah, it's a freaking like Emperor Palpatine in that relationship. Do it. But I'm like, that's not what the reality is. Let's say they have like a terrible relationship. It was still his choice, bottom line. And then there were a lot of like articles and people trying to make it like that was all completely her fault. I'm like,
yeah, absolving
no.
Will completely.
No, that was probably the most frustrating part.
Yeah, that speaks to something else toxic in our society.
To all my fellow nominees, this is a community. It's like I won because you voted for me. And it really breaks my heart to have stolen and tarnished your moment.
Yeah, poor
I can
Questlove.
still see Questlove's
Wow. eyes.
It happened on Questlove's award. And
I felt so bad for him.
it's like I'm sorry really isn't sufficient. What would you say to the people who looked up to you before the slap, or people who expressed that you let them down? So there's two things. One, disappointing people is my central trauma. I hate when I let people down. So it hurts. It hurts me psychologically and emotionally to know I didn't live up to people's image and impression of me. And the work I'm trying to do is I am deeply remorseful. And I'm trying to be remorseful without being ashamed of myself, right? I'm human. And I made a mistake. And I'm trying not to think of myself as a piece of shit. So I would say to those people, I know it was confusing. I know it was shocking. But I promise you, I am deeply devoted and committed to putting light and love and joy into the world. And, if you hang on, I promise we'll be able to be friends again.
That was one of the biggest takeaways for me in this situation because, like many, I'm someone who had absorbed so much of Will Smith speaking, countless variety of interviews when it came to, either be motivational talk, like I said, words of wisdom, personal development. There was a lot of psychological insight into work ethic or goal setting or life skills. It impacts on a way that feels so disappointing. Like there are certain people that if they did something like this, you wouldn't be like, oh, that is shocking, because that action makes you kind of look back and question, a lot of like what is the truth? You know, do I question now? Can I just take the advice still to heart of everything he's ever spoken about? But he does speak on something very true. Which, you know, it's like when you make a mistake, a lot of times you want to kind of put on this display of shame, because if you feel like just terrible and you really show it, like maybe that's the way to get people to forgive you. But living in a cycle of shame will only make it worse. And in fact, that wouldn't allow someone to progress to a level where they can heal emotionally and mentally to the point where they wouldn't do something like this again, because that's the issue when you live in the emotions of shame. You know, there's guilt and then there's shame. Now, it's temporary shame, totally get it, but you do got to get to a point. So what he's speaking about is a really hard place to find, and I'm curious if he actually is there, where you are genuinely like, I am very remorseful and I got to live with that, but also I got to still improve myself, because but if you're stuck in shame, you're just not going to improve.
Because you're going to be kind of convinced then that that's who you are and that's what you do, is these things that you are ashamed of or that are destructive, when really, yeah, it's about letting go of some of that so that you can, you know, embrace the good and enhance the good within you, step beyond that moment of weakness and come to some kind of, you know, strong conclusion. You can't be so down the shame hole that you can't just look at the situation for what it is and then learn what you need to learn from that. And I think that's a thing that a lot of people struggle with as well. Generally, I mean, I struggle with that, you know, not.
You should be in shame.
You know,
like,
you're right, though.
all the time.
Yeah, I know.
If anyone,
I'm
everything
such a
I
bad
just said
person. Ugh.
does not apply to John here.
Stupid, just screw up all the time. On purpose.
You think this is a bit?
Nope. This is just how we greet each other each day.
Best of luck to Will Smith. I hope him and Chris Rock can resolve. What I'm really waiting for is a hilarious stand-up special from Chris Rock where he talks about the slap.
The slappening.
That's what you know.
Full hour
That's
and
why
10
he has.
minutes.
You know that's what's coming, and we got to get that going, and then maybe they can laugh about it, and Will Smith will greet him backstage and talk to him and Dave Chappelle. Yeah. It'll be a great time.
They'll do an awkward Oscars bit about it next year. The fake slap scenario.
All right, guys. Well, William Smith is back. Bad boys for life. Leave your thoughts. We'll talk with you soon.